Hello everyone, hello my friends. It's Jack from Cultaholic.com and it's my favourite time of the week. It's when we look at all of my wrestlers of the week. You know the drill by now, but first of all, I must address the elephant in the room. Someone's been firing shots at wrestlers of the week. Well, maybe not directly, but I took them as shots because if you watched SmackDown this week, you'll have seen Big Colin Cassidy stood there with his called Colin. My granddad's called Colin Cass. What are you doing? Standing there in the ring and saying, me and Daniel Bryan aren't going to have a 5-star match at Backlash. We're going to have a 5-second match. You mean implying that he's going to hammer Daniel Bryan and beat him instantly? I hate this. With that attitude, Big Colin, you're never going to make it on Wrestlers of the Week. Wanting a 5-second match, that'll get you an honourable mention at best. But no, he doesn't seem to understand that to get on Wrestlers of the Week, you have to do things of importance and you have to do them well. And longer, often, not always, but often equals better. Longer than 5 seconds, certainly, Cass. What are you thinking? Oh, dear me, I hope I never have to confront him in real life about this because he could beat me in 5 seconds, obviously, but you've disappointed me, Colin. You've disappointed me a lot. You've replaced Roderick Strong as the official heel of this video series. On now to some honourable mentions. Now, a lot of people, if I hadn't mentioned them now, would be saying, where's Daniel Bryan? Where's Braun Strowman? Because Daniel Bryan lasted a hell of a long time in the Greatest Royal Rumble match, a really long time, and Braun Strowman eliminated a hell of a lot of people. I just didn't enjoy the match. I thought it was okay, thought it was a bit bland, and I'm just sad that it counted towards the official Royal Rumble records. I'm sad that Daniel Bryan's now the longest, stint in a Royal Rumble match. I'm sad that Strowman now has the most eliminations. Not because I don't like those guys, I like both of them. I just didn't think that this Rumble should have really counted. But never mind. I mean, they've earned themselves an honourable mention. Also a big shout out to some lads from ICW because they had their Barromania show this past week, Barromania 4, which saw a big feud-ending match or a feud collide. I don't know if it's ended the feud. It wasn't, maybe not a blow-off, but it was a big feud collision between Lionheart and Jackie Polo. They wrestled a good match and Lionheart lost, Jackie Polo won, and then Lionheart, as he was leaving, cut a promo. Well, we didn't cut a promo, he just sort of said, I'm going home. It looked really downtrodden, and it's got me invested and it's got me excited to see where this goes next. So my 4 honourable mentions: Daniel Bryan, Braun Strowman, Lionheart and Jackie Polo. Let's get on with the proper list in proper. Actually, one more thing before we begin. I should point out that the events of today, the excellent matches we've seen over in New Japan, will not be taken into account this week because it's Friday and it runs from Friday to Thursday. They'll be taken into account next week. So hold on for that. Hold on for one more day, one more week. Number 10, Minoru Suzuki, one of the biggest losers of this week, to be honest. Can't believe I'm calling Minoru Suzuki a loser. I should be careful. But he lost to Tetsuya Naito. We all thought he was going to defeat him, but he didn't. He lost the IWGP Intercontinental Championship back to the leader of LIJ. This was a surprising one. I thought Naito's slide was going to continue. I wonder if they've taken the belt off Suzuki because they need Naito to have a big feud with Jericho, who's sort of returned out of nowhere, and they want to have a belt in that feud, because it seemed like this was all being geared up for Suzuki to hold the belt for a longer time and for Naito to continue losing for a longer time. But now it's the old switcheroo, and it was really odd. This was an okay match. I saw very mixed reviews on this match, so I watched it myself and I thought it was okay. Suzuki battered Naito for most of it and looked really menacing and imposing, as he always does. Really quick slaps to the face and all that sort of stuff. And then Naito just snapped and started slapping him, not worked slaps to like the neck area, proper slaps in the face, really hard. And at one point broke or busted open Suzuki's nose somehow. His nose was leaking blood. Suzuki was selling these brilliantly, which is a big reason why he's on Wrestlers of the Week. He was selling them kind of like a lifeless doll figure of himself. He was kind of just falling against the ropes. It looked really creepy, but really effective. Naito just hit Destino out of nowhere and pinned him. It was shocking, and I thought when I heard this match announced that these two could potentially be 1 and 2 this week, I was like, oh, this match is going to be great. And it turned out to be not so great, but still okay. So for Suzuki's efforts in the match, I'm going to give him 1 point, but it was very weird indeed. I'm not quite sure what to make of it. Number 9, I'm still shocked that Naito looks like the Roman Reigns of New Japan. Maybe not that bad, but he looks like it was quite a Roman Reigns match. He sold a lot and then just came out of nowhere and won. Number 9, while I get over that, Kalisto, a man who, Kalisto is often the figure of fun, but he's been picking up points consistently throughout this series, and he's actually level with some big WWE superstars in terms of the league table. He's level, I think, with The Miz right now, after these 2 points this week. He's leapfrogged poor Ronda Rousey. Poor Ronda. Oh, maybe she'll get a chance to get some points later on. But Kalisto, as you know, had a title match for the Cruiserweight Championship at the Greatest Royal Rumble against Cedric Alexander. And this match was really good. My boy Brandon Stroud over at uprocks.com, he compared this match to a stop motion like cutscene in a game like Fahrenheit on the PS2 or something like that, where you kind of press buttons in time to sort of avoid the attacks and throw your own attacks and stuff. It was like a big cutscene. Everything seemed pretty flawless. Big moves were being sold like doubly as big, if that makes sense. It was really effective. And I just want to give props to Kalisto for being one of the only men to turn up in Saudi Arabia and actually try and put on a match of the same level that he does back in WWE. I mean, back in North America, I should say. But like, it was a good match, and it was the best match on the show, but I can't help but be disappointed when I think of it, because I think of that match, and I think of watching the first 2 matches on the show, and I think, oh, that Cruiserweight match was good. What's next? What else is going to be as good as this? Not a lot. Not a lot was as good as it. 2 points, Kalisto. Well done, mate. Well done for making an effort. Good job. Number 8, his opponent, Cedric Alexander. Cedric is a man I've been guilty of, I think, ignoring a bit too much on this list. He's had some excellent matches in very strong weeks, so he's been neglected or maybe allocated less points than he should have been. But he deserves to be higher, I think. I kind of regret it, because Cedric is the leader right now of the Cruiserweight division, and we know that 205 Live's improved a lot recently. Cedric, like Kalisto, went out and tried to put on, you know, the same caliber of match that he would any week, rather than kind of viewing it as a big payday and a holiday. And I'm not going to stand here and blame the wrestlers who did treat the Greatest Royal Rumble like a bit of a payday and a holiday, because I probably would have done the same. I probably would have sat by the pool quite a lot. But Cedric wasn't sitting by the pool. He was in the gym, presumably, eating loads of chicken, I guess. I don't know if he might be vegan, eating loads of protein. He was he was having a really good match with Kalisto as well. It was great stuff, and I'm really interested as well to see who his next opponent is. It looks like it's going to be Buddy Murphy, but beyond that, I'm interested to see if it's Drew Gulak, because Cedric and Drew have been 2 of my favourites in the all of WWE recently, and I really want to see them collide. I thought they were going to wrestle at WrestleMania 34, but instead it was obviously Mustafa Ali, but I really want to see that Drew versus Cedric showdown, and I think Drew's going to take the championship. Number 7, a man that some of you may not have heard of, but some of you will have heard of if you're a fan of British independent wrestling, Stevie Boy. Stevie Boy is a newcomer to the list. Congratulations, Stevie Boy, on your 4 pointeroos. I'll give a little rundown of what Stevie Boy did and who he is and all that sort of thing. Basically, for the unfamiliar, Stevie Boy is a long-haired little rascal, horrible little rascal. He's a heel. He's the leader of the Filthy Generation, including Kaylee Ray, his real-life girlfriend, I believe. And he won the ICW Championship at Barrowmania 4 this week, which was an angle borrowed slightly, inspired by a WWE angle. Basically, Stevie Boy was coming into this event with the Square Go briefcase, which is like the Money in the Bank contract, but instead of winning a ladder match, he won the Square Go, which is kind of like a Royal Rumble. It's a mixture of the Royal Rumble and the Money in the Bank gimmicks, and he came out with the briefcase. Then he had to defend the briefcase on this show in a career versus briefcase match against Kenny Williams. Very dramatic indeed. Stevie Boy won. Kenny Williams turned heel and joined Red Lightning and Rudo Sports Entertainment, the whole heel faction in ICW. And then we all thought that was it, for now. Then the main event rolled around. The champion BT Gunn was facing Mikey Whiplash in a death match. Stevie Boy cashed in the middle of the match, didn't he? Like Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 31. He ran out with the briefcase. He, cashed in, joined the match, made it a triple threat. Then some stuff happened that may have overshadowed his title win. I'll get onto that. I'll tell you what happened now. Basically, BT Gunn hit Mikey Whiplash with a powerbomb through a pane of glass, and Mikey Whiplash I'm pleased to report that Mikey Whiplash is only going to be out apparently for 4 to 8 weeks, but he was cut up. The glass went into his back, apparently may have nicked like an artery or something. There was a lot of blood pouring from his back. There was some apparently glass embedded into his head, into his skull. It was really bad. But Stevie Boy hurled BT Gunn out of the ring, covered a glass, prickled Mikey Whiplash for the 3 count and won the ICW Championship. Well done, Stevie Boy. I'm excited to see where this run goes because he's a name who's never held the title before, and I'm really quite interested to see what happens next. And I hope Mikey Whiplash is okay. Jesus. Number 6, my boy, my man. That was awful. That was really bad. It's Seth Rollins, my man. Seth Rollins, my man. It's that time of year again, or that time of his career again, which always kind of rolls around every sort of year and a half or so, where everyone realizes that Seth Rollins is one of the very best wrestlers in the world. Everyone's starting to get back on board with it again. I think Mark Henry had some very kind things to say about Rollins, saying, you know what, he's a future Hall of Famer. I think we already knew that. But it's nice to hear Mark Henry, also a Hall of Famer, endorse a future Hall of Famer. Really, really good stuff there from Mark Henry. Rollins had a fairly eventful week. He took part in my opinion, the second best match of the Greatest Royal Rumble, that ladder match against Balor, Joe and Miz. And then he main evented Raw against Balor in a wonderful title defense for his IC Championship, which he retained. Good job, Seth. He's just an absolute boss, isn't he? I've run out of superlatives to describe Seth Rollins, and although, you know, due to the structure of WWE and the way the programming is laid out, he doesn't really garner as many points as he maybe could if he was in a promotion like New Japan, he still gets pretty high on this list from time to time. I want to see him in New Japan now. I really want to see that. I want to see him in the G1. I want to see him wrestle Omega. I want to see him wrestle Tanahashi. I want to see him wrestle Okada. That's the one I really want to see. I've ruined it now because it's probably not going to happen ever. Well done, Seth. Get out of here, you rascal. Number 5, Finn Balor. I usually prefer Rollins over Balor. Rollins is very much my guy. Balor is very much not my guy, and I'll explain why. Look at him. I'm not saying that Rollins isn't also an ethereally handsome man, but Balor is just, I see people online all the time. Like, Balor will post a picture of his 15 million abs and everyone will be like, oh my god, you're so hot. And yeah, he is, but so that doesn't mean that it makes me deeply insecure, guys. It makes me deeply, I feel down on myself whenever Finn Balor dares to post a picture of his body. So I'm not the biggest Balor fan because of that. But for serious reasons as well, I want Balor to turn heel. And I think, fingers crossed, that a heel turn is incoming. I think that he's been a bit too cocky recently. He's been smiling a bit too much at the wrong times. And I think that's going to lead to him recruiting a club of sorts, you may say, around him and becoming the real rock and roller again, like he was in New Japan as Prince Devitt. But this week, Balor, bloody handsome Balor with his pretty eyes and his dreamy voice, oh my god. I've really got issues here. Balor was in that ladder match of the Greatest Royal Rumble. He was also in that main event against Seth Rollins of Monday Night Raw. And I prefer Rollins, but in this match, I have to say Balor impressed me more. He was hitting big spots left and right and center as well. He was also, the best spot of the match for me was when Rollins went for his superplex into the Falcon Arrow, but then when they hit the superplex and stood up, Balor hit the Falcon Arrow. It made him look like a beast. And it was brilliant. And it was one of those moments where, you know, like Randy Orton Christian kind of situation where you think these two opponents know each other really well. And I really enjoyed the way they displayed that and they presented that to an audience. It was even familiar to maybe a casual audience who wouldn't necessarily understand that. I think even like a random person who's only been watching for about a month or two would see that and go, oh, he knows his opponent really well. That's really good stuff. And Finn Balor, welcome to the higher reaches of the list, and stop being so bloody handsome. Ugh. Number 4, the modern day Ultimate Warrior, but actually good at wrestling. Juice Robinson over in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Juice Robinson had a very good match against Hiroki Goto for the Never Openweight Championship. And although Juice was guided through this match a little bit by his more experienced opponent, he is nicely developing into one of the purest, most fieriest babyfaces, not just in New Japan, but in the entire wrestling world. I really like Juice. I'm not a biggest fan of him as some. I know that Sam is particularly a big fan of Juice. If you want to somehow signal through your editing that you're a big fan of Juice, go for it now.
I love you, Juice. You are one of the best wrestlers in the world, and I think we would be very good friends. If you ever want to hang out and learn how to edit videos, I could show you or something. Please give me a call. My phone number is 074.
Lovely stuff. But also, I think that Juice is really broadening his appeal as well. Even people like me who aren't necessarily a natural fan of his are now looking at Juice and thinking, oh, he's damn good at wrestling. This match had a lot of excellent false finishes. I particularly enjoyed when Goto started to get on top and really started to batter Juice, and then Juice grabbed a roll-up out of nowhere, and I thought that was the end of the match, but it wasn't. Goto kicked out and eventually did win. Juice lost, but it's not too long. You can tell it's not too long before he picks up his first massive big title victory. So well done, Juice. Carry on, my wayward son. Get on this list more and more until you are done. It's really hot weather outside today, and I'm not thinking too well. Next up, Hiroki Goto, who with a big 8 points moves level just inside the top 25 alongside names like Sonata, Keith Lee and David Starr. Guys who've appeared on this list with regularity throughout the whole progression of this series, but Goto is different. This is the first time we've seen Goto since week number 1, which is really cool. I like how he's just, he put in a great performance in week 1, then sort of faded in the background and then just struck back this week to remind me that he's one of the best wrestlers in the world, and I often forget about him. Goto, phenomenal as always. He's not just underrated by me, he's kind of underrated by the world generally. We all forget that Goto is such a phenomenal wrestler, purely because he's in the Chaos stable, surrounded by guys like Okada, Nakamura when he used to be in the stable, but Goto wasn't then, but kind of moved in to replace Nakamura, but didn't replace him because Goto's not got the same reputation as Nakamura. Goto's reputation is that he chokes on the biggest stages of all. Whenever he's about to win the world title, he always bottles it. But in this match, he wrestled with poise and all the experience. You can watch this match and think, wow, Goto is an experienced wrestler, even if you've never seen him before. He's got phenomenal strength. He's really underrated in terms of strength. He hits big power moves from time to time, especially on a big guy like Juice Robinson. And I really like him, and I feel like he's sort of a neglected friend of mine. I never call him. And like if he messages me at a weekend saying like, are you doing anything tonight? I'll be like, oh lads, Goto's called me. I know he's a good laugh, but it's Goto, isn't it? I mean, we could be hanging out with Okada instead, or Kenny. But no, I should start replying to him. I should really message him and see what he's doing this weekend, but I won't. That extended metaphor is what Hiroki Goto is to me, and I feel like I need to start appreciating him a lot more. And so should you. You should be appreciating Goto a lot more as well. Look at that intensity. Number 2, a newcomer to the list and a man over in All Japan Pro Wrestling. Their big champion at the moment, Kento Miyahara. Now, I'll be honest, I wasn't too familiar with Kento Miyahara, and if you're not as well, I'll try and explain. He's kind of the Okada of All Japan. He is their current champion. He's not that old, not that young. He's kind of in the middle of his wrestling career. He is fresh. He seems fresh in all of his matches. He's frantic and frenzied. He wrestles a bit more like frantically than Okada does. To compare him to Okada, he wrestles with a bit more pace and a bit more striking and a few more knees and stuff. So he's like a hybrid of Okada and Omega, kind of. This is Kento Miyahara. Remember the name. I said it to remind myself, I'll be honest. Miyahara faced off in the final of the Carnival of Champions over in All Japan Pro Wrestling, which is like their G1 climax, and his opponent was Naomichi Marufuji, kind of the Okada of Noah, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. But anyway, if you watch this match, you'll see why Miyahara is excellent. He didn't quite make it to number 1 because I didn't enjoy, at some point, little few inconsistencies in his selling. At one point, Marufuji gave him a pile driver onto the apron, which was bloody terrifying. And then a few minutes later, Miyahara was back on his feet and charged with babyface energy. And I think that that move should have come a bit later on in the match, is what I'm saying. But in a result that surprised many, Miyahara actually lost the final of the Champions Carnival against Marufuji. And I think that's actually more interesting than if he'd won. If the champion had won, then he's still, the dominant champion. He's already the champion and he's won the big tournament as well. With Marufuji winning, it throws the whole future of All Japan into doubt. And I love Chaos, not the stable in New Japan. I love them as well, but I love the concept of Chaos in wrestling, not in real life. I like order and structure. Well done, Miyahara. Welcome to the list. Big old 9 points for you. And finally, number 1, and my wrestler of the week, I've mentioned him already, Naomichi Marufuji. Now, fortunately, I'm a little bit more familiar with Marufuji than I am Miyahara. Marufuji was actually in the 2016 G1 Climax in New Japan, and I was like, who's this guy? And luckily, my wrestling friends filled me in, they did. They said that basically, Jack, listen, you stupid, ignorant idiot, Marufuji is the Okada of Noah. Noah is like kind of the second biggest promotion in New Japan. They split off from All Japan in sort of 2000 or so and became bigger than All Japan themselves, really. So this is very interesting because Marufuji split with them and then returned to All Japan for this tournament. He seems to love coming into tournaments and kind of going, I'm here, I'm going to tear stuff up. Like, honestly, in 2016, he battered Okada and beat him in the G1 Climax, and it was crazy. And he actually got a title shot against Okada because of it, and Okada beat him. This time, he's done pretty much the same. It's the same sort of storyline, except this time he made it all the way to the final and won it. So he's beaten Miyahara. He's probably going to get a title shot against him, and I'm going to have to keep a very close eye on that eventual match because I think that could be a potential match of the year candidate. Marufuji in this match was doing all the things that makes Marufuji great. He's one of the best kick throwers in all of wrestling. He was throwing big hook kicks, which is kind of his signature. He was throwing big jumping bicycle knees to the chin. Maybe the only man in wrestling who rivals Kenny Omega for the best knee in the business, or Seth Rollins. Lol JK. But yeah, Marufuji, I think watching this match, I could tell that he was the more experienced man. Miyahara, as I mentioned, was selling a little bit inconsistently here and there, whereas Marufuji, every single thing he did made sense, and he really demonstrated his ability as an all-rounder. He's got tremendous strikes, tremendous suplexes and that sort of thing, really good submissions as well, and is technically excellent. One of the best wrestlers in the world. It's taken him a long time to get on this list, but he's here now, and he's my wrestler of the week. Well done, Naomichi Marufuji. So that's it for Wrestlers of the Week this week. Let's take a look at that old league table. Now, the only major change as we go down past the Ospreys and the Zack Sabre Jr.'s and the Garganos and that sort of thing, past the Aleister Blacks, is that Seth Rollins has cribbity crept up into the top 25. Ooh, Seth, you cheeky monkey, repping for the WWE. Can Seth push on a little bit further and maybe catch Jonathan Gargano? I don't know. It depends how many good matches Seth has in the next few weeks, next few months really. We've got a long way left to go. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching Wrestlers of the Week. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. Follow me on Twitter at JackTheJobber. Follow all of us at Cultaholic and join us as well at patreon.com/Cultaholic. Join us generally. Just join us.